Welcome to Episode 4, Positioning HITRUST versus NIST CSF, ISO 2701, and CIS 18, where we give teams a clean mental map for choosing and explaining their approach. Positioning matters because it shapes plans, conversations, and expectations before any work begins. When teams use the same map, they stop arguing past each other and start sequencing efforts that actually fit together. A simple shared picture reduces duplicated tasks, conflicting audits, and vague promises to stakeholders. It also lowers onboarding friction for new teammates who need to learn the language fast. Good positioning tells buyers what they will receive and tells engineers what they must build. In short, it turns scattered requirements into a coordinated effort that earns trust. The International Organization for Standardization, Standard 27001, commonly called ISO 27001, defines a management system for information security. It asks an organization to operate a closed loop of policy, risk, control selection, measurement, and continual improvement. Because it is a management system, it emphasizes leadership commitment, defined responsibilities, and evidence that the cycle runs year over year. Unlike a pure outcome framework, it offers a recognized certification path through accredited auditors. Many organizations use it to demonstrate disciplined governance and repeatable practices. It does not by itself prescribe a complete set of technical safeguards. It expects the organization to select controls that fit its risks. Think of ISO 27001 as the engine that keeps the program running. The Center for Internet Security Controls, often called CIS 18, provides a prioritized checklist of safeguards. Its strength is clarity and order. Start with inventory, harden endpoints, manage access, and build monitoring in a sensible sequence. Because it is practical and prescriptive, it helps teams turn intent into concrete tasks that can be tracked. It is approachable for smaller teams and still useful for larger environments that want crisp baselines. While it does not produce a formal certification by itself, it offers measurable activities that developers, system owners, and operators can adopt quickly. When used well, CIS accelerates implementation and raises the floor across the estate. It is the to-do list that moves defenses from ideas to action. HITRUST functions as an assurance overlay and a consolidation layer that ties many of these ideas together. It provides a structured way to validate that controls exist, operate, and are mature, and it packages results in outputs that buyers recognize. Because it consolidates mappings, one assessment can address multiple expectations at once, reducing repetitive questionnaires. The overlay nature means it does not replace the other frameworks. It confirms them with objective evidence and scored results. Teams often design with CSF or ISO concepts, implement with CIS-style tasks, and then prove performance through HITRUST. This combination turns strategy, execution, and assurance into a single traceable thread. The outcome is clarity for executives and credibility for external stakeholders. Mapping relationships and control equivalents let one action satisfy several expectations without double work. A password policy, for example, can align to a CIS safeguard, support an ISO clause, and map to the relevant requirement in an assurance catalog. Equivalence is not copy and paste. It is a reasoned statement that two controls address the same intent with acceptable rigor. The mapping must name the sources, the scope covered, and any gaps that remain. Done well, it becomes a living table that explains how the program speaks several dialects at once. Reviewers can then trace from requirement to implemented control to collected evidence. That traceability is what removes friction during assessments. Aligning scope across multiple frameworks prevents teams from proving one thing in one place and another thing somewhere else. Scope answers what systems, data types, and locations are included, and it does so in the same way for every lens. When CSF, ISO, CIS, and HITRUST all point to the same boundaries, test samples and dashboards agree. This alignment also clarifies inheritance from platforms and shared services so responsibilities do not drift. A practical technique is to keep a single register of in-scope assets and reuse it across narratives, mappings, and tickets. By treating scope as a shared object, every review step looks at the same universe. That consistency shortens meetings and reduces rework. Avoiding duplication in evidence production comes from designing artifacts that serve many audiences at once. A good screenshot shows the system name, the setting, the timestamp, and the user context so it can live in multiple folders without confusion. A log export includes filters and a short explanation so the next reviewer understands why it proves the point. Small habits like consistent file names and repeatable queries allow a single poll to satisfy several controls. Teams can also build reference procedures that show where to collect proof and how to label it the first time. The goal is to capture once and reuse many times with confidence. Duplication shrinks when evidence is legible out of context. Selecting anchors for program design means choosing one or two primary lenses to drive daily work. Many teams pick CSF for strategy language and CIS for baseline execution, then connect to ISO for management discipline. Assurance then rides on HITRUST to validate results and generate recognizable outputs. Anchors reduce decision fatigue by answering which rule wins when guidance conflicts. They also help with onboarding because new teammates learn a core set first and crosswalk later. An anchored design does not exclude other frameworks. It organizes them. The test for a good anchor is simple. Does it help decide the next right action quickly and defensively? Buyer requests and industry expectations shape which outputs matter most in real deals. Some customers prefer a familiar management certification, while others want a consolidated assurance report that reduces their vendor review workload. Positioning prepares sales, legal, and security to answer those requests with confidence and without promising redundant audits. It also informs contract language, so deliverables match what the program can actually produce. In practice, a short matrix that links buyer requests to available artifacts avoids last-minute scrambling. When expectations are met with the right evidence the first time, cycle times improve and trust grows. Clear positioning turns security diligence into a repeatable business capability. Reporting for executives should emphasize outcomes, risk movement, and assurance status without drowning in control minutiae. A concise dashboard can show where CSF outcomes improved, which CIS safeguards reached steady state, and how assurance results changed quarter to quarter. Executives care that the program is working, that exposures are shrinking, and that external expectations are satisfied. They also need simple narratives that tie investments to measurable effects. Connecting these points with a few stable metrics helps leadership make better decisions. The same structure can feed board updates and customer briefings with minimal editing. When reporting is consistent, attention stays on progress rather than on formatting. Practical sequencing across a roadmap keeps momentum high and audit fatigue low. A useful order is to stabilize inventories, harden access, and improve logging early, because these steps power everything else. In parallel, stand up management system elements like roles, reviews, and risk methods so the engine runs. As baselines mature, expand monitoring and response, then prepare assurance artifacts while work is still fresh. Build regular evidence cycles so you are not harvesting under deadline pressure. Throughout, keep the mappings current so each change updates the broader picture. Sequencing is successful when every step unlocks the next rather than creating side quests. Minimize redundancy and maximize assurance by letting each framework do what it does best and by knitting them together with discipline. Use CSF to speak outcomes. Use CIS to execute safeguards. Use ISO to operate a management loop. And use HITRUST to verify and communicate results. Keep scope common, mappings current, and evidence reusable, so one effort pays several dividends. Choose anchors that speed decisions and meet buyer expectations without overpromising. When teams hold this positioning steady, they spend less time translating and more time improving real protections. The payoff is a program that is easier to explain, simpler to run, and stronger under review.